Hello and welcome back to our video series on how to prepare for your PMP exam. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is step 6, and here we are going to show you that PMP actually stands for Practice Makes Perfect, and how to use free online PMP exam sample questions as well as real practice tests to gauge your readiness for the PMP exam. Just like a competitive athlete, a PMP candidate sets out on a training course with the actual test as the final event of that preparation. And in that sense, preparing for the PMP exam is less like a 100-meter sprint than it is like a marathon, because preparing and passing the exam is an accomplishment in itself. The certification can make a significant difference exponentially from the day that PMP follows your name. There's just one small problem. And the problem is this fact here, because PMI doesn't actually tell us how many questions must be answered correctly in order to pass the PMP exam. All that we're told in the PMP Credential Handbook is that the passing score is determined by sound psychometric analysis. So, how do you get then around this catch-22 situation of wanting to know when you are ready when nobody actually tells you what ready means? The answer to this conundrum is the 85% rule. So, whenever you answer PMP exam sample questions, keep track of your score as you answer them. If you consistently are able to answer at least 85% of these sample questions correctly on your first attempt, then you can probably consider yourself ready for the real exam. The second attempt doesn't count, because on the PMP exam you only have one chance, the very first time, to answer a PMP exam question correctly. With that out of the way, let's take a look at what you can expect from the PMP exam in regards to the types of questions that you get. Because next to studying the PMBOK guide, PMP exam practice questions that you take are your most important study activity. After all, the PMP exam is not a simple memory recall multiple choice test. You have signed up for a 4-hour 200-question multiple choice exam with up to 5 question types, and these types include things like complex situational questions, short situational questions, formula-based questions, knowledge-based questions, and also interpretive questions. Each question type has its own purpose and pitfalls, which makes knowing how to get the most out of each question type and how to answer them quite crucial. So let's review each of these question types here, and let me give you a few pointers. We begin with these situational questions. Often these questions are quite lengthy, and they test your ability to look at the question, read the question, and identify the relevant content and ignore the irrelevant stuff. It is therefore important to read and accurately identify the actual question that may be buried somewhere in this situation that is being described, so that you can eliminate insignificant information. The formula-based questions are more than just solving for the median or calculating earned value. There are about 49 PMP exam required formulas that you must know backwards and forwards, and they range from simple averages to probability and depreciation. You have to know both the formula itself, you have to understand it, it has to be in your head, and you have to know how to actually calculate these kind of questions in order to get the answer right. And more than that, in some cases, the situation that is described in the question may require you to apply the formula slightly differently than what you would normally do. Knowledge-based questions are often stemming from the PMBOK guide. They occasionally ask things like which process belongs to which knowledge area, or which inputs, tools and techniques or outputs go with which process. So They just require you to know facts. That's what they test. Sometimes you are even asked to identify an example chart or a graph, such as recognizing a RACI chart or a Pareto chart. A little trickier than the knowledge-based questions are the interpretational questions, because they test your ability to deduce a situation or a condition. For example, a question could be, if your project has an SPI and a CPI, both greater than 1, how well is your project performing? And based on that little information, you have to be able to make a deduction and select the correct answer. Last but not least, we have the specific technique questions. They will contain some kind of a tool or technique, like a network diagram, and then ask you to provide an element that is inherent in that network diagram, such as a forward pass or a backward pass. That means you have to know your techniques, you have to know how to use them, and you have to know when to use them. There are many free PMP exam questions available on the internet, but they are just not structured enough for you to start to practice all of these question types. So, as you move further and further along in your studies, you are probably going to want to have many more and much harder questions. Your best bet is therefore to get quality questions in an PMP exam simulator. There are a variety of these exam simulators available on the open market, and some students even choose more than one simulator. So, before you buy and sign up for a simulator, you should look at the following must-have features. First of all, and I probably don't have to tell you this, look for an online PMP exam simulator that fits your budget. And don't be fooled into thinking that just because a simulator has a reasonable price, that it doesn't offer a comprehensive product. Compare features, cost, reputation, and do take advantage of any free trials that are offered. The number one feature to confirm in the PMP exam simulator that you want to buy is that it is based on the PMBOK guide, and not just any PMBOK guide, but the most current edition. Make sure that it represents all of the question types that we have just gone through, and that it provides hints and explanations for each question. Also make sure that the questions used in the simulator were written by multiple certified PMPs and that the questions parallel the actual PMP exam. The reason for this is that the PMI asks many volunteers from around the world to write PMP exam questions for the real PMP exam. This gives the exam the reputation of being unpredictable. So many people have written questions with so many different backgrounds and so many different styles. And the best simulators will have the same variability in the background of the people who created the questions. You should also look for an online PMP exam simulator that helps you not only take exams but also learn the material by allowing you to review the exam questions and explanations after taking the exam. Reviewing questions right away will help you to identify and focus on specific process groups and knowledge areas from the PMBOK guide. Make sure that the simulator gives you access for at least 60 days so you can go back and review the questions and retake the exams as you prepare. Another good recommendation is to only buy your PMP exam products from reputable sources. So, look for products offered by PMI registered education providers, REPs, because each of these companies is thoroughly screened by the Project Management Institute. REPs provide quality programs which must align and keep current with PMI standards. So you know, even if the exam changes, even if the PMBOK guide changes, my product comes from an REP. It has to be up to date. And here are a couple of links for you to free questions and a free simulator. You can find 110 free questions at freepmexamquestions.com. And if you want to try out a free simulator, go to pmexamsimulator.com and simply click on the free button. And that was our overview on how free exam sample questions and PMP exam simulators will help you get ready for your exam. I will see you again in step 7 when we'll look at what you can expect on the day of your actual PMP exam. Until next time.